Good evening, everybody. Alan Slaughterzinski for the Brevard Sports Network. No, we're not live in Jimmy Hula's. Coach had a previous engagement a couple of weeks ago. The baptism, I believe, Coach. You had a baptism in your family. And certainly far more than important than anything we had going on at
My
Jimmy
9-year-old
Hula's.
grandson.
There you go, his grandson baptized. But please welcome here to the Brevard Sports Network studios the head football coach for the Bayside Bears, Mr. Billy Miller. Coach, how are you, man? Coach?
I'm doing well, man. Better than I deserve. Hope you're doing well also.
I'm doing great, Coach. Let's jump right into this thing, man, because I know we're having connection issues there. Coach, I want to ask you, first of all, I want to congratulate you on last season. Coming off the year before, I don't know, you and I talked before the season, and the expectations were to make better men that wanted to play hard, work hard, and do the right things on Friday night. Looks like you got that last year. You make a trip to the playoffs. You come back here in the spring. Tell me about your spring, Coach.
Well, we always look at the spring as a time to kind of reinvent ourselves, but also we had a ton of questions to answer. I mean, we only had one returning lineman on both sides of the ball. Obviously, our quarterback had to be replaced, which I thought was one of the very best in the county.
Yep.
So, I mean, we graduated 18 guys, and most of those kids were contributors on last year's squad, but even better, they were loyal, great kids. And that's kind of our goal every year. And we feel like if we take care of that, the football's gonna take care of itself. That's not what we measure on. We want to be standard driven and not just results driven.
Coach, I was blessed enough to be able to be at your signing day with the numerous players that you had that signed to play at the next level. Watching you and Coach Sherrill beam with pride on the stage was really fun, and there's kind of highlights of it there on the screen now. What was that like to have that success for your program?
Well, it's all because the kids bought into what we were doing. It wasn't anything that I did. It was all because of what the kids did and what they took with them and ran with what we asked them to do. And we know that they're great kids. They come from great families, and we know they're going to find success no matter what they do, whether it was football or not football. They were going to find success no matter what they decided to do because of the type of people that they are.
Coach, for the first time in a long time, when we do a Bayside football game, you're not going to hear a Brabham, whether it be Caden or Logan. It's weird to think that there's no Brabham at quarterback at Bayside. First of all, how is that for you? And tell me, did anybody come out of spring with this job?
Well, we of separation. Colston Patterson separated we had over at Hardy County with them and Frostproof, and they did a phenomenal job of hosting us. They had great hospitality. They took care of us. Joey Costa did play well, but Colston kind of separated himself a little bit. But as you well know, this is what can you do for me right now type of deal, especially when you play quarterback. So we can't maintain and rest on our laurels. We got to get better every day.
Coach, you're in the midst of before we get to your summer workouts, tell me about, and I know how proud you were of how hard you guys fought, because you did go into your spring game with a lot of questions. Who stood out for you? Who surprised and shocked you?
We had a lot of positive surprises. Jaden Taylor, who plays wide receiver, defensive back, he probably jumped out the most. He was a kid that played corner for us last year, and he played 3 or 4 different spots on the field in the spring. Norm was a kid that came out from basketball in February, played well at corner, and obviously you got to be able to play in the secondary. I think the group that probably took the biggest strides, though, was our offensive lineman, because all but one of those kids were JV kids last year. So, my philosophy on that. That's where we're going to build from on both sides of the ball. And then Elijah Grimsley, who played running back for us last year, had a really good spring too, running the ball and catching out of the backfield. But we got, I hate to point individuals out, but we got, a lot of dudes that made a lot of positive progress this spring.
Here with head coach Billy Miller of the Bayside Bears. And coach, I've asked every coach this question. You had, you had questions, but you also had expectations of what you wanted to see from your team going into the spring. Again, going back to the conversation we had after your spring jamboree. What did you learn about your team that you didn't know?
That they can respond. I mean, they had some fight in them. They didn't let the scoreboard dictate how they played or their reactions. We always tell our kids all the time, don't let circumstances dictate outcomes. And they didn't do that. They just went out and played ball. And that was kind of our goal going in. And they went to go when you look back to, April 28th when we opened our spring training camp.
That's good stuff. Coach, let me ask you this. Moving forward now, what will Bayside summer look like the rest of the way? I know summer workouts are in full gear, but what do you guys got on the docket heading forward?
Well, we're weight room driven. That's where we develop our kids. And we do it not only for the physical development, to me, more importantly, the mental development. So we push them hard. We're going 3 days a week, which I changed up a little bit. And I've done this in other places that I've been. We went 3 days, going 3 days a week. We're going to throw in some 7-on-7s against other local schools around, just so we can kind of, get the kids out there running around and work some of our fast concepts and being able to play some man coverage and just making sure schematically our kids kind of have a good start for when we start practicing in the fall.
Coach, you'll be going into your third year already come spring. What is different about Billy Miller going into fall, I should say? What's different about Billy Miller as a head coach than was different from the day you took the job just a couple of years ago?
I think there's a lot less unknowns for me now. I mean, this will start year 31 of me coaching high school football.
Right.
And I've done a lot of stuff, been a lot of places, and coached some really good players and coached with some really good people. And I kind of feel like that being able to have more answers to the questions that are going to come up as we go, which only can be provided by experience. And then also just, and this is my philosophy going in, but even more so now, is leaning on my staff and let them do their jobs. I believe you hire guys that are smarter than you, that know how to do things better than you. You let them go do it, and that's how you find success.
Coach, I've given all the coaches an opportunity to talk about their staff a little bit because you lean on them very heavily, especially a lot of times in the spring and in fall camp. Tell me about your staff. Who are some of the guys that you really lean on?
Just the head coach. He was there with me on the previous staff as well. And without him there, our transition back in January 23 doesn't happen. Also have Mac McLeese on the staff, who was on the previous staff as well. Gary Perry, who's our baseball coach, he's on the staff. Patrick McNally.
Absolutely.
Quarterbacks, and a great addition to what we're doing. Jamie King kind of handles our defensive backs, and he's kind of my chief of staff and keeps me focused on keeping first things first. He came over with me from Chris Napier joined us last year as defensive experience. He's probably one of the smartest dudes I've ever been around, just in general as a man, but just from a football standpoint. And then we added a gentleman named Mark Morelli, he's got 42 years of coaching experience, 22 years as a head coach up in Pennsylvania. He's coaching our linebackers, going to help with special teams. And I've got Clay Folsom, who actually played for me at O'Galley, coaching our D-line, and he's another dude that we have on campus as well. So
Coach,
I can't do this job alone.
Coach, we caught all of that except for the name of the first coach. What was the name of the first coach you mentioned? Chris
Eves. He's the offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. Like I said, he was he was there from Jump Street when we took over back in January of 23, and what we do doesn't happen with him. He's also an on-campus guy for me as well.
Coach, who are some of the coaches you've looked up to in your career? In other words, turned to advice from. Who are the guys you picked up the phone and called and said, "Hey, I need some help"?
Well, I talked to one of my best friends in the world is Randy Bethel, who was the head coach. I worked for him at Sebastian River High School. He now coaches at Vero Beach, and he lives right down the street from me. He's a dude that I lean on. Tyrone Perry's the head coach at Sebastian River. We had a staff there at Sebastian that we were all together. There were 10 of us on campus, and we were together for that entire time, almost while we were there. So trying to recreate that has been important. I kind of lean on everybody that I've worked for. I still talk to my head coach that I played for. He's retired, lives up in South Carolina. And I still, I talk to him every couple of weeks. I've kind of gotten close with Brian Helton, who's over at Rockledge. He and I spent a lot of time talking. And, a guy like Dan Burt, who's over at Satellite now.
Oh, yeah.
You're crazy if you don't tap him as a resource just to, bounce ideas off of. But I think there's a lot of good coaches in this county, and we need to do a good job of clinicking with each other and sharing with each other, except for one time a year. So we can do this better for all the kids.
I could not agree with you more, Coach. Here with Coach Miller from the Bayside Bears, and Coach, I want to know what do you need? Every program needs something moving forward. Opportunity to talk to your community now this off season as you guys reset for the coming year. What do you need help with down there?
Well, we just need the support because that's who our kids play for. We feel like all of our stakeholders are very important to what we do, especially at Bayside. You've been there before. It's a little bit different community than some of the other places around the county, just because we're kind of off by ourselves. We're kind of secluded. And we get good support every week. The administration does a heck of a job supporting me and giving me what I need. But just having that community support, week in and week out, regardless of what happens on the field, because again, I think we should be measured not on necessarily the wins and losses, even though that's important. We should be measured on the type of kids we turn out and graduate every year.
It's a great environment down there at the Den, Coach. We love coming down there when we come down there. I think it's a great Friday night football environment that I think your community needs to very much be a part of. Coach, let me ask you this. Playing in the SSAC, I love the Sunshine State Athletic Conference. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it was a move that we had to make because of the environment that we were in. We wanted to make things as competitive as possible and give our kids a positive high school football experience, and that was just a better fit for us.
Yeah.
That first year was probably one of my toughest years of coaching, and we made some mistakes, but I think the vision for what I had and for what my staff had for this program was we want to provide a positive football experience for every kid that we have in our program and keep our kids in our program.
I am putting up on the screen now the social media pages. Bayside does a good job with their social media pages. Please follow them on Facebook and all of the social media pages that you see up there. Coach, I know I'm an old school guy. I kind of get the sense that you're kind of old school like me in some regards. How has, on top of becoming a new head coach for a new program, with all the changes that you've seen in terms of NIL, between college and high school and the recruiting and the transfer portals, how are you able to keep up with all this stuff, man?
Well, you got to stay informed. But I think one of the coaches I kind of look up to, and I read anything he puts out, is Dabo Swinney up at Clemson.
Yep.
And he's very big on keeping first things first. And the first thing that we need to do is provide an opportunity to teach these young men to grow from boys when we get them in the 9th grade to young men that are productive citizens when they graduate, that have seen examples of being, men being good husbands, good fathers, good people in the community, and doing things the right way. And in turn, that turns into, to success in football, because you learn a work ethic, you learn how to do things the right way. And we always tell our kids that, how we do is a heck of a lot more important than what we do.
Coach, I know you went to Newberry. Where are you from in South Carolina?
I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
And went to school in Newberry. So I'm
Yeah.
a Carolina kid at heart.
Yeah, no, I remember we had talked about that, but then mentioned in Dabo and South Carolina was like, oh yeah, okay. We used to have a home office I used to go to quite frequently out of Charlotte and Spartanburg. So I used to go down to Spartanburg, South Carolina, a lot. Wrapping up here with Billy Miller, and
that's where my dad's from, Spartanburg.
is he okay? I love it, man. It's just they call it God's country for a reason. There, that's for sure. Coach,
Yes, sir.
what do you want coming into this season? Well, you know what? Before I ask you that, I'm going to ask you to tell me one more time. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago, when you took the job, we were up at Walk-Ons. I didn't get a chance to see you this year. I'll see you at media days this year. But every time I interview you for something like this, I ask you to remind me, what are the core principles to play for Billy Miller? The 3 things or the 4 things you always tell me that your players need to be.
Listen, we have three standards, and I've even changed. I don't call them rules anymore. I call them standards and expectations. Number 1, they need to be a great son, because everything that we do is not mutually exclusive. If you're a great son, you're going to be good in everything else that you do. The second one is be a great student and citizen, whether it's in the school, in the community, wherever you are outside of the program. And finally, to be a great teammate. And if you embody all that stuff together and, make that your focus. And we talked a lot when we went in the spring to the kids about, hey, what's your why? What's your purpose? And we kind of refocused that this year of hitting those standards, and let's make that our purpose. And then everything else will take care of itself.
No doubt. I just love hearing that. I absolutely do. And I always love when Coach Miller says, I'm more worried about the guy who's going to be 10 or 15 years from now than the guy he's going to be when he steps on the field Friday night. I think that surmises the coach that you are, and the man that you are. When we get to the fall, what is it you want people to know? The final question, you want people to know about this Bayside Bear football program and where it's at in the Billy Miller, or the process of and the goals you've set for the program?
Well, our goals, like I told you before, are going to be, in our vision statement, it says we're makers of men. And that's the most important thing that we can do for these kids. And if we don't do that, you can go win all the games you want to. If you're not, if you're not teaching those kids a good core, you more and how to be a good person. We're doing and that used to be a good problem to have, because it can pay dividends as you kind of go down the road. And then one of our goals too is just we want to try to find a little more consistency than we had last year. We were kind of up and down. We went through a 4-game losing streak, but credit to the kids, they found some grit and fought back and got us into that SSAC playoffs last year, and that's kind of what we're looking to do again this year.
No doubt, Coach. I can't thank you enough for your time. Sorry we missed you at Jimmy Hula's, but we'll see you on the 18th of July over at Camping World Stadium for the FCS Citrus Sports Media Days. My man, head coach of the Bayside Bears, Billy Miller. Have a great night, Coach.
You as well. It's always good to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, take care, my friend. All right, that'll wrap it up. And no, we weren't live from Jimmy Hula's, but to all of you out there, thanks so much. Coming up, we got maybe 1 or 2 coaches' interviews left. We are down to the nitty-gritty here before we are focused towards fall. So for head coach Billy Miller, and I want to thank the great staff at Jimmy Hula's, I'm Alan Slaughter-Zinski for the Brevard Sports Network.